Good evening, everyone. I hope today finds you all well. I wanted to make a second part related to some of the knowledge shared in the first one. Now, another topic that is more relevant to recent occurrences that I wanted to speak about is, well, I'm not really sure how to call them. There is this trend in the New Age, which are classes basically organized by specific so-called spiritualists who get paid to bring forth a group of people or certain different groups of people, and they offer them the chance to go into a specific channeling session themselves and to speak and communicate with specific spirits themselves. If it is not a specific spirit, they are told that they can be brought into communication with their own dead, basically relatives who have passed away recently, by the most part. Others not so recent, but the majority will sign up for these so-called classes to be able to communicate with a relative who has recently passed away. Now, the thing is that this is something that you should not engage with. And why do I say this? These particular people who blindly offer these so-called services, first of all, they are not really witches to begin with, okay? They are the New Age fake spiritualists, the too much love and light type. Not that there is something wrong with love and light, or with light in general. I personally am very well known for my angelic works and healings that I have performed for other people who have come to me in the past, and anyone who has come to me can verify this. I have no problem with the light in any form. I do not oppose it, simply because I am self-aware of the balances of the universe and what have you. We've been through this before. I'm not going to get into too much detail here now. But what basically happens into these so-called classes, or some call them holistics or what have you, whatever fancy names they find. First of all, as I said, these so-called teachers or fake gurus or what have you, they are not witches. They do not know the basics of raising a sacred space. They do not know the basics of banishment. They do not know the basics of wardings. And they do not know the basics of simple protections. So what we are basically doing in this particular business is, well, they, not me, they are bringing people in who are completely profane, have no connection to the practice prior or in any shape or form. And these people merely are brought into a group to perform a blind evocation. I don't see how anyone in their right mind that has any knowledge about this practice can see this as a valid method or way to perform upon people. And I don't see why anyone in their right mind would try to go in and pay for it to begin with. Now, I can understand a lot of you are grieving. You are going through the loss of a loved one, a family member, or multiple family members, or what have you. That whatever the unfortunate case may be, unfortunately, it does happen, and I can totally understand that aspect. I mean, the very first thing that a lot of people will want to do while they are trying to process the grieving that comes with the loss of a particular loved one or a family member will be to try and contact them once again. They want to see how they're doing. They want to make sure that they are like, how to say, that they're doing fine, that they're in a better place, that they have arrived there, and so on and so forth. So these people exploit that. And they know they can make a lot of cash out of this because there is always a lot of grievings going on. The angel of death is always busy, forever in employment, forever and ever has and will be, for eternity. Let's be honest. As we are aware, death is an inevitability. It is not a possibility. Many things are a possibility in this world, but unfortunately, death is an inevitability. It's not something that you think it might happen. It's something that is certain to happen for all of us at different times dictated according to God, universe, and what have you. Now, simply, straight out said, performing a blind evocation is a bad idea to do in your own time to begin with. Now imagine how much of a bad idea it would be to perform in a group setting under the supervision of a person who is not even a witcher himself. He is just maybe throwing a few readings here and there, has swung a pendulum a few times here and there, has given some false advice, which he calls channeling to people upon few aspects and things here and there. The so-called enlightened and knowledgeable are never enlightened. He who has to run around and bark upon his abilities is the one who does not possess them, as it should be known. The self-aware and the truly powerful never advocate their arsenals. Their arsenals are to remain hidden and shown only when it is necessary and when the time calls upon it. So you should never engage into these classes. Now, what has happened and what usually tends to happen, and what is unfortunately also a personal experience of mine, these people will come into contact with whatever is out there. They are going to falsely think it's their dead relative. They are going to merely get a feeling of electricity around their bodies. They are going to get a heating sensation around their bodies, or upon their chests, or on their solar plexuses, or living, tingling energy, moving like a live electricity around their lower limbs, for example. Or even a feeling of cold air. Cold, frozen energies usually tend to be chthonic, the energies of the living dead. But these energies of the living dead are usually connected to the Qlifoth. So, let's say you have that experience to communicate the human dead. If he is a dark soul, it will get a little bit colder. Or the energies will just be heavier. Slightly heavier. Not as much as a demonic spirit would be. We're talking about a small percentage here. When you are starting to feeling these heat sensations or extreme energies moving around your body, it simply means you are dealing with a particular entity that is not human in any shape or form, especially when you are sweating hot. This tells us that we are dealing with a demon of the fire element. If you are feeling a light breeze which is heavy and tingling all over your body, like you're vibrating, like a megaphone, we are dealing with the demon of the air element. If you are starting to feeling very smooth and fluid, we are dealing with the demon of the water element. And when you are feeling extremely solid and serious, we are dealing with the demon of the earth element. which are differences that take experience to understand. But we do not in any way, shape, or form have to be fooled thinking that we are dealing with a spirit that is a human dead, and most of all, our own relative. Why would a human dead bring such heavy energies upon their own relatives if they love them? Does the human soul have the ability to bring fiery heat? Is the human made of fire in any way, shape, or form? Fire, which is what most people actually, unfortunately, the heat, the heating sensations that they talk about, none of this is a human. It is something that was never human, to be able to possess such an elemental substance and energies that can be brought forth upon the living, because you're connecting through the veil with that particular spirit. That spirit can also just feel entirely heavy and brings your judgment into cloudment, and it's then harder for you to think and process things. Then we're dealing with a totally dark and abyssal demon. The higher the rank, the more complicated the energies. The demon will feel like a mixture of these elements, which is even more complicated to figure out who you're dealing with. So it is not as simple. But one thing you should know, there is no way you are dealing with the human dead when you are doing these kind of blind group evocations. And what happens is people end up with tremendous parasitic attachments, which they cannot rid of for years. And these people will seek to later reach out, and you will hear stories, such as I have, of tons of shamans and other light spiritualists, even priests, who have tried to engage with these situations and banish this particular so-called spirit, which somehow they thought it was their poor dead dad, or whatever relative it is that these poor people are paying money to connect with. These fake spiritualists take the money and harm people and put them in harm's way without caring. The neglect about the human, the fellow human, and the consequences that will come upon one is tremendous. It's unbelievable what I see and hear. People are gonna start dealing with year-long possessions. People are gonna start dealing with year-long addictions and tremendous psychological changes. The mental issues that shall arise in the long term, of course. In the beginning, things start mild and smooth. These parasitic entities shift and change, making you think that you are dealing with some kind of a dead relative, or maybe making you feel like you're loved by angels by flashing little numbers here and there, or by giving little favors. You may become a little bit more divinatory due to your forceful possession. You may be having some lucid dreaming. You may be having some astral hearing. Furniture is already cracking around here. You may experience a lot of significant changes, making you think that you are somehow enlightened and open. And you're gonna go to these spiritualists to seek help, and they'll just simply tell you that somehow, without any meditation, your third eye is too open, and you are just connecting with everything in the universe. And that's why you are receiving these side effects. This is an answer that I had from a person who has sought help, that was told to them after they have run around for years spending money on dozens of so-called enlightened spiritualists and shamans to get rid of their own possession, which is severe. So it is nonsense to be able to have such an overactively open third eye. First of all, would not be healthy and beneficial for any human being to begin with. It would cause tremendous insanity to connect with so much. Second of all, to be able to claim that you are wide open somehow. I'm not saying too open. That's a very misused term that we shouldn't bring into any circumstance or any of these talks. Let's say you wish to claim you are open. Your third eye is open. In order for this to happen, you need anything between 20 to 30 years of constant meditation and different techniques and different ways of chakral openings and third eye meditations. The level of which I speak with is the equivalent level of a guru in India who has dedicated himself to these practices and he lives his life by it. That's when you can say you are wide open. So, when you pay a spiritualist to get rid of your possession, and instead of telling you that this is the problem you are dealing with, and you need to work on that problem and face it, instead he just tells you that you are extremely wide open, one with the entire universe connected. That basically means I either don't know what the hell is wrong with you and cannot help, but I'm taking the money anyways, so I gotta give something as an excuse. Or I know exactly what is wrong with you, but money talks, so I'll just grab it and stick it in my pocket and hope that the next will help. So after years you're sitting there stuck with the same problem and nobody has been able to help. Equally, you are gonna run and go the other way. You shall seek a priest. The light exorcisms that the priests use have been heavily manipulated. They are not the ritual which you need. Not to say that they do not banish demons. Yes, they can banish demons. But what does banish mean? And for how long is it imposed? To me, banishing something means you permanently remove it, so it is no longer able to return. It is no longer able to affect the host. It is no longer able to enter the ritual space. It is never allowed to return or go near to the previous host or the residency that the host resides in general, in any way, shape, or form. Or anyone who is affiliated with the host to begin with. So these light exorcisms, what they do is they banish, but they only temporarily banish. Your attachment is bound to return again. Because that particular caster, the priest, cannot live with you all the time. And your attachment knows this. It's just going to leave you for a little while. And then it will just return as soon as the exorcist is gone. So, unfortunately, these typical light exorcisms of the church do not work. Not long term. If you need a temporary release, by all means, go for it. So, these are some severe cases that have come forth seeking help for years, have spent a lot of money asking all sorts of charlatans to help them. And they are still stuck with these problems. Some cases are more severe than others. There are very mild possessions that can be dealt with a small attack. There are others which have to be repeated again and again and again. Every case is different. Some spirits are higher, some spirits are lower. If I don't, the cracking, it's funny when they do that. If your own attachment appears to you and it has a form which appears to be powerful, and if you see small to middle-sized horns, this is a sign of rank in the infernal. You are not dealing with a mere parasite which can be dealt once. You are dealing with a serious demon That doesn't mean you're dealing with a goetic demon or with someone who has a fucking king rank or a prince rank or what have you. These beings, they work with witches for transformations, or they do different deals. Okay, it's more business oriented, if you want to call it this way. They don't run around possessing others. That's a very low thing to do. That would be an insult to them to consider them as such, or ask them if they do so. But these other ones, who need a host, and that's all they do, their existence revolves around seeking for a host, embodying a host, and taking control of the host, and living within the host, to feed off the host. These are true parasites, but they come in all shapes and forms. Just because it's a parasite doesn't mean that it's a fucking small parasite. There are small bugs. There are big bugs. There are tiny, harmless spiders. There are huge tarantulas, which are deadly. There's all kinds of stuff. Okay? So be very, very, very careful. Be aware. Be educated. Do not sign up for such classes where you are widely opened as a profane person with no experience of the practice, with no prior trials through it. Do not put yourself in these situations of people who just seek for money. And if you have a problem with an attachment, we in the cult are here. I am here. The rest of us are all here. We are more than able to help. Services are in place and have been for a while now, and shall become more official. When, of course, the official website is still under construction, but people can reach out through the group on Facebook through the Cult of Belial, which is dedicated to King Belial himself, which is basically one of the main sources of our knowledge so far, and we are extremely grateful to him for everything he has taught us, and for everything that we are to learn, because we will be students for as long as we live, and we already are aware of this. There is no false ego within this cult. So, if you are dealing with any kind of situation as such, reach out to me or any one of the team. We are here for you. We are ready to help. And we have the knowledge to help. All we will require, because it does happen sometimes that people are a little bit too ashamed to tell the truth. So, imagine you go to your doctor and you hide details of your condition or what you actually did prior to your condition, which brought you to the doctor to begin with. You will not be able to be given the right treatment. You will actually maybe given treatments that might harm you instead of heal you, just because you concealed these details. So please do remain honest and tell us what it is that you did and all possible details about your condition when you come to us. Don't hide anything, because we're not here to judge in the end of the day. We want to help, but we cannot help if we don't know the truth. So I hope all of this has helped people recognize their situations and get educated a little bit more about the truth and about the hidden dangers that these practices or all these false prophets may be bringing upon people. Stay true to yourselves, remain vigilant, and always alert. Hopefully your development goes to tremendous heights. Rise and conquer.